What a Strange Little Colt. Written by Linwood. Chapter 4. Acclimation, Part 2. The walk from the general store to the market street didn't take long at all, and in a few short minutes, the two Begasai had arrived. The market usually claimed the title of the liveliest part of Ponyville, and today was no different. Ponies trotted and flew between the various brightly colored storefronts and market stalls in a colorful storm of coats and manes. The air carried the general bustle of haggling and chatting and everyday life, and the ever-shifting wafts of delicious, usually unhealthy wares peddled by the food carts that stood proudly on every corner. Rainbow's stomach rumbled, but she pushed the thought aside for the moment.
So, kid, now that we've got the boring stuff out of the way, what say we, head down to the toy store down by Skirt Corner? Would you like that?
Why? Came the response, laced with an undertone of disbelief.
I should have seen this one coming.
Rainbow felt her cheeks just get a touch hotter.
To buy you some toys or something. I thought you'd like that.
Oh, you wanted to buy me something that I wanted? The surprise in his voice caught the Pegasus a little off guard. Wow, that's really nice of you. I can't remember the last time, some pony did that for me. And just like that, her heart broke just the tiniest bit.
Celestia, this Colt.
She didn't let that show, of course.
Well, we can head over there right now,
Rainbow said, putting enough enthusiasm into her voice to mask the painful feeling in her heart. The Colt made a humming noise and looked around.
Actually, can we get something to eat instead? Something smells, really good. What?
Rainbow thought.
Are you sure? You don't even want to look? I promise there'll be really good toys, I think. Rarity sometimes donates their stuff. Yeah, I'm sure. Now, come on.
The Colt in between the front window of a shop and a surprised-looking mare, already following his nose, and vanished. It summoned a terrifying vision of losing the tiny foal in the forest of ponies and having to explain to a furious Sandy Hills what had happened.
Kid, wait up!
Lady Luck gave Rainbow a helping huff. She found Gabe not 30 seconds later, standing in front of a hay dog cart being run by a worried-looking stallion in a red and yellow-stained apron. She trotted up just in time to hear the tail end of a conversation that made her eyes shoot wide open. Kid, what do you mean your parents are gone? Rainbow bolted forward.
It's exactly what it sounds like. Hey!
The Pegasus mare planted herself between Gabe and the stallion.
Sorry about that.
Then over her shoulder.
Gabe, what the hey were you thinking? You can't just run off like that.
Gabe pursed his lips and furrowed his eyebrows in a crude imitation of an adorable pout. Oh, said the orange-coated stallion, drawing her attention back forward. Rainbow Dash, is the foal with you?
I'll deal with you later, you weird little fool.
Rainbow thought as she forced herself to refocus.
Yeah, I'm, looking after him for a bit.
She gave him a half-embarrassed, half-nervous smile. That seemed to be enough for him. He adjusted his little red and white cap atop his mussed-up mane and gave her a welcoming, business-like smile. Well, what can I get for you two? After a second hesitation, Rainbow stepped to the side.
Well, kid, you're the one who ran over here. Anything catch your eye?
The kid eyed the menu standing next to the cart that was taller than he was, but his face just looked confused. He turned to the stallion.
This says all I can order is hay stuff. What smells so good?
The stallion chuckled at the face he was making. Well, that would be my grade A delicious fried hay dogs. I'd recommend the number 4. Tastes great with some ketchup and mustard, and my fries well. He leaned over his cart and brought a hoof to his side of his mouth in a comically theatrical staged whisper. My hay fries are better than any pony else's in town. Old family recipe. He grinned and winked. But let's have that be our little secret. If the secret go out, I don't think I could keep up with the demand. Gabe looked confused during the Earth Pony's performance at first, but a moment later, a happy little grin spread across his face.
Hey, when he's not being as strange as possible, he can actually be a little cute. Well, if they're really that good, he said, humming exaggeratedly and looking at the sky in feigned thought. The stallion continued their little show. Oh, I assure you, sir, only the best for you. Well, you sold me. I'll take it. I knew you were a clever little colt, coming right up, and for you.
The cart pony looked at Dash.
Oh, I'll take one of those too.
Fantastic choice, ma'am. I'll have those done right away. True to his word, the stallion gave them a basket with a hay dog and fries that steamed even in the noonday air, and gave him a smell that made Rainbow's stomach growl with an embarrassing ferocity. Rainbow gave the cart pony his bits, and they were off to find a spot to eat.
The park's nearby. Wanna eat there?
Rainbow suggested.
Sure, sounds good.
He responded, more focused on carrying the tray on his back than anything else. He kept knocking around with his wings, like he was unused to carrying stuff around with them, or even moving his wings at all. They kept twitching and jerking, making Rainbow very concerned for the food. They had almost made it to the park, when only a few steps away from the grass, the little colt let up a hup, as his splintered hoof caught a divot in the dusty road. He wobbled just enough for the basket to slide off his back and bounce to the ground, tossing the hay dog and a bunch of those supposedly world-class fries into the dirt.
Dude, I'm sorry.
Rainbow began expecting to console an immediately distressed foal. Instead, Gabe stared at the food, not moving.
You can have mine if you want.
Offering the delicious-smelling meal on her back wrenched her heart with grief, but she wasn't about to make a kid eat a dirty lunch.
Nah, that's okay,
Gabe said, and began scooping the food back into the basket, along with a frankly alarming amount of dirt. Her sentence was dead on arrival as she watched the colt swipe a fry off the ground and pop it into his mouth.
Wow, hey, yeah, these are pretty good.
Rainbow tried again.
Are you sure, kid? I mean, your food's covered in dirt. Yeah, it's all good. 5-second rule. What?
She boggled.
It's been way more than 5 seconds.
5-second rule. Come on, the park's right there. He set the basket between his wings again and made for the park. Rainbow blinked and rushed to catch up with him.
Whoa, wait, kid. Hold on. At least let me shake some of the dirt off. I don't want you eating freaking dirt.
She caught up to the little foal and bit the end of the basket, raising it and giving the contents a few bounces. Far too much dirt and dust fell through the holes in the cheap wicker, and even once she was done, the food hardly looked edible. He eyed her, one eyebrow raised.
Are you done?
He said, sounding a little annoyed.
You've got to be kidding me. Kid, are you really? Yeah, I'm sure, Rainbow. Believe me, I've eaten way worse.
The nonsense statement tightened up her chest. She frowned but didn't retort. Instead, she spun and carried the basket the rest of the way to the park, letting him hobble along against her. The park wasn't so full that it took more than a few minutes to find a nice shady spot under a tree. Rainbow set Gabe's basket down on the grass before reaching over her shoulder and grabbing her own basket from her wings.
Alright, here you go.
Finally, Gabe said, focusing solely on his dusty food. He very awkwardly laid down while Rainbow removed her saddlebags, maneuvering himself to keep his weight off his side and splinted foreleg, which he splayed out in front of him. Then he gave the food his full attention. In a flash, half the hay dog was gone.
Holy Lord, I never thought hay could taste so good.
He moaned through a mouthful of dirt and dog before jamming a few more nasty-looking hay fries into his mouth. Gross, definitely, but not gross enough to dispel the hunger rolling in Rainbow's gut. She hadn't eaten since breakfast, after all. Ignoring the colt's weirdly emotional meal, Rainbow lifted her own very much not dusty hay dog to her mouth and took a bite. The most satisfyingly greasy deliciousness exploded in her mouth, pushing away any thoughts of dirt all the way back to the line. The sign Pegasus scooped up the hoofful of fries and stuffed them in there too, and in a moment, she absolutely believed every boastful word that stallion had said. They ate their meals in peace, listening only to the sound of easygoing wind, far-off shouts, and satisfied munching. The food was gone too quickly for Dash. She looked down at her empty basket, forlornly wishing that the few stray crumbs that remained were something more, then produced a burp that would have gotten her an earful from Rarity. What surprised Rainbow, though perhaps it shouldn't have, was that the kid finished his food far quicker. Every crumb had vanished, even licked the basket.
That was pretty freaking good, huh, kiddo?
The little foal produced a burp almost as violent as her own and shook his light green mane.
Oh yeah, I got no idea what I did to deserve that, but I loved every bite.
Rainbow let a silence pass. The mood was a special satisfied mellow, and she wasn't in a hurry to dispel it. A concerned thought grew in the back of her mind though, and after a while watching some of the weather team push a cloud across the sky, she voiced her thoughts.
Hey, kid, what do you mean you've had worse? You were just about ready to eat more dirt than food back there.
Gabrielle showed without meeting her eyes.
I mean, I've had to deal with a lot worse than some dust on my food before. No big deal. How much worse?
The little green foal picked up the grass with his good hoof.
Much worse, and a lot of it every day.
He sighed, looking lost in his thoughts.
But it's okay now. In fact, it's great now,
he said, looking to her with a grateful smile.
I'm here and I can eat a really delicious hot dog and fries. Hot dog? Thanks for that, by the way. It's just like when I was a kid.
He looked back out to the park. A couple of mares and stallions played with their foals not too far away. When he was a kid, what did he mean?
Oh, maybe he means before he got taken away from his family.
Rainbow took in a deep, shuddering breath, looking away once she felt her eyes watering. Once again, it struck her just how fast this foal had been forced to grow up.
He tries so hard to act like an adult. Of course, kid. Anytime.
She blinked hard, then turned back to the foal.
But you can't run off like that, okay? Oh, right. That.
The kid sounded noticeably less grateful now.
I knew you were right behind me. It turned out fine. I know, but I could have lost track of you. I don't want that to happen, okay?
She channeled her mother as best as she could and fixed a stern stare on him.
And don't think I forgot about the hospital. This disappearing act better not become a habit. But I wasn't in any... Kid?
Her harsh tone cut him off. After a second, she tried again with a slightly softer tone.
I just don't want anything to happen to you, okay? I'm supposed to be the one looking out for you. If anything happened to you, that'd be on me. Alright. Thanks, kiddo.
She said it as laid back as she could manage, trying to siphon off some of the tension that hung in the air.
You ready to head home?
He burped again.
Ready as I'll ever be.
It only took a moment to crumble up the used baskets and stuff them into her saddlebags before she put them on.
Alright, all aboard. Rainbow Dash is ready to take off.
He huffed at that, but Rainbow caught the ghost of a smile flit across his dark green muzzle. He climbed on and Rainbow leapt into the sky. The Pegasus mare transformed her smooth but powerful launch into a gentle bank and began coasting towards her cloud home. She flew as gently as she could, gliding on the afternoon updrafts and keeping a smooth, easy ride. A quick check over her shoulder confirmed her suspicions. Gabe had his face buried in her mane. She reached over his shoulder and tapped his hoof.
Hey, kid, check out the view. I'm good.
He replied into her neck.
Come on, just for a second. I promise in my life I won't drop ya.
He didn't move. Rainbow sighed quietly and turned her head back around, a tad disheartened, but a moment later she heard a tiny gasp.
Oh, wow.
Another glance over her shoulder revealed the Colt looking down at the town with those wide brown eyes, albeit with his forelegs around her neck and his cheek pressed into her mane.
I had no idea it looked like this. Pretty cool, right?
Rainbow grinned. She felt him nod against her coat. The view was indeed spectacular. The town had begun to get that late afternoon bustle, full of lively, colorful ponies moving about through the streets and over the rooftops. When she looked back up, Nash spied a handful of stray clouds drifting across the sky and banked towards them. Rainbow then glided to the widest, most stable-looking cloud and landed with a little flourish.
Alright, kid. Time to see that you can really walk on clouds.
She took a canter on the clean, fluffy platform and stuck a pose for emphasis.
Ta-da! See? I don't know about this, Rainbow. It's really different from your house. It's alright, kid. I promise. Even if you fall, I'm right here. I gotcha.
He didn't say anything, hesitating in silence for a minute or so before shifting about, going down rear first. His back hoof reached out, carefully tapping the cloud. It pulled back, almost in shock, then settled on the material. Limb by limb, he made his way off her back, and when he finally did have all four hooves on the cloud, they simply stood and felt at it, pressing each foot down in the cool softness. Gabe looked at her with starry eyes filled with genuine childhood wonder.
I can't believe it. This is so weird. It's so soft.
The sight of the kid looking happy and actually like a foal filled Rainbow's chest with a special kind of pride she had never felt before.
Maybe there really is hope for this kid after all.
Rainbow caught one of her other clouds giving off the faintest flash in the corner of her eye, and an exciting idea popped into her head.
Alright, kid. Check this out.
She spread her wings and took off, doing a few loops and rolls while she gained altitude. Even from a little distance, she could tell the kid's eyes were still wide with awe. She grinned determinedly. She was about to rock his world. Rainbow shot herself forward and performed a magnificent corkscrew, then flipped and dove back into the clouds, hooves outstretched and forelegs locked. She collided with the cloud at a fantastic speed, knocking the lightning out of it with a flash and a terrific crack boom, blowing the cloud apart. The thunder rolled through the sky. She knew that, to the Colt, it would have looked like she shot lightning from her very hoof tips and looked up, expecting to see his wild expression and a grin across his face. Instead, she saw him dive off the side of the cloud. Rainbow couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. She just flapped there in the air for half a moment, dumbfounded before her body caught up to her brain and she exploded into action, diving towards the Colt in a manic blast of speed. The damn kid screamed his head off as he tumbled through the air. Dash flapped her wings even harder, fighting her instinct and driving her faster and faster. She reached towards the foal and the orchard he hurtled towards. Her saddlebags ripped at her sides. They held her back, slowing her down. The trees rushed up to meet them far too quickly.
No, 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 no.
The two collided and Rainbow locked her forelegs around the smaller Pegasus, squeezing him against her chest, groaning as her wings screamed in protest. She pulled out of the dive with barely a breeze to spare, screaming right over the treetops and back into the endless blue sky. Rainbow realized that she had stopped breathing and sucked in air to her panicked body. Every single muscle was tense and her eyes were locked open. They darted around, taking in the landscape in excruciating detail. She felt each feather in her wings shift in the air, and each shiver that shot through the little body pinned against her chest.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
The energy was too much. She had to move. Minutes later, she just about flopped into her porch, standing awkwardly on 3 hooves. She held the Colt against herself, who kept his hooves tightened around her neck. Unlocking the door with her mouth was awkward, and hobbling through them even more so, but her wings burned and ached as they hung limply at her sides. Walking would just have to do. The Pegasus carefully made her way to the stairs and into the guest room, making it about the middle of the space before her legs gave out under her and her rear fell to the floor. Gabriel stared at the wall with a faraway look that, in all honesty, scared her to the core. He still had both forelegs wrapped around her very tightly, as if she were the rock that kept him from being swept into a roaring, wrathful sea.
I'm sorry, kid.
She whispered, stroking his mane and tucking his head beneath her chin. He only continued to shiver and stare.
I am sorry. So sorry.
Though Luna's night sky shone in all its glory, Rainbow Dash found herself still awake. She laid on her bed, her room shrouded in darkness, staring up at the ceiling. The scene from earlier in the day played over and over in her mind. Whenever she closed her eyes, it had been too close. Far too close. Had her reflexes taken her a second longer, or he had somehow wormed out of her grip, or if she hadn't been able to pull up in time, that would have been it. Oh, Celestia, Sandy would have had her head.
I am so screwed. What was I thinking? I'm not good at taking care of foals. This was such a stupid idea.
She groaned and rolled over in her bed, mashing her face into her pillows.
Maybe it's for the best. The kid deserves better than me.
A moment later, she rolled out of bed. Even though it was the middle of the night, the late summer made sure the air felt plenty warm. Rainbow crept past Tank, fast asleep in his little bed, and to the door, careful not to set her hooves down too hard. A few moments later, she had exited her room, silently flown down to the floor to the foyer, and placed herself before her front entry. The doors opened with a soft groan, but it couldn't be helped. She trotted out onto her front porch, taking a deep breath of the cool night air before stepping off the edge of the tightly packed clouds. Practiced but aching wings slowed her fall to a hover, and she flew up beneath her front porch to where she knew the long rope hid. Sprouting from her home's foundations and coiling around a big cloud dowel, she took hold of the thick, sturdy rope's end with her hooves and unwound it in ways before gripping it with her teeth, and then after making sure the rest was secure, she slowly backed away. Once the rope was taut, she turned around and eased the work her wings were doing. She let herself slowly descend. The rope resisted, but Rainbow insisted, and slowly, very slowly, the cloudomium began to fall. It took nearly half an hour before Rainbow deemed the home at a good height. Somebody standing on her porch would be able to make out the individual blades of grass in the hilly plains below, so long as they squinted. and if they had decided to take a dive, they'd end up with, at worst, a broken bone. Perfect for a flightless Pegasus foal. Her teeth, neck, and wings all raised Tartarus as Rainbow flew back up to the bottom of her porch. She stuffed the rope around its dowel in a messy, haphazard way, and after a brief good enough inspection, the worn-out Pegasus flew back up and set herself down on the porch. Her head hung low as she walked back inside and pushed her front door shut. Tank raised his head when she pushed her bedroom door open. He sighed, trudging over to the little dude and giving him a gentle pat on the head.
Yeah, Tank,
she muttered.
I really screwed up.
The tortoise gave her a slow, wrinkly smile, and Rainbow couldn't help but to feel his spirits rise just the tiniest bit.
You're right, bud. I should get to sleep.
After one final pat, she took 4 steps and flopped into her cloudy bed, snuggling into the nice soft sheets with a relieved sigh. Tomorrow would bring what tomorrow would bring, and it was tomorrow Rainbow's problem. Until then, she was long overdue for a nice, long rest. More and more we learn about Gabriel, the more that I become increasingly worried about his past. But I'm sure the rest of you have either guessed or have assumptions, and I'm curious about what it will be. What I'm not curious about, however, are the kindness of my wonderful donators, as I already know how kind they are. They're much too kind. I love them all. Thank you, Squall, Windfeather, Wandy La Paz, Starlight Blaze, Rainflicker, and Dreamless Portal. Sword Brother and Mordred, Danish Dash, Solus, RD Bryant, Captain Blueshadow, HKH4 aka Texture, and the Animated Ghost. And of course a large thank you to Silent Titan. That aside, however, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.